Good evening. Today is June 8th, 2022, and the Board of Appeals is now in session. So I've called the meeting to order, and I'd also like to recognize Philip Cook, who will be joining us tonight as the alternate in participating, as that not all of our members are present this evening. All right, so the first item on our agenda is the approval of the May 11th minutes. May I have a motion for approval?
I move that we approve the minutes of the May 11th, 2022 Board of Appeals meeting.
And a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on the minutes? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion passes 4-0, ayes. All right, so we can move on now to our public hearing. And tonight we have a public hearing on BOA 9257-2022. It's a special exception for a stealth rooftop telecommunications facility at 403 Russell Avenue in the R90 medium density residential zone. And this evening I'll ask Caroline Seiden to go ahead and present the case to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is a public hearing on special exception case BOA 9257-2022 for a rooftop telecommunications facility at 403 Russell Avenue, part of the Asbury campus. The hearing was published in accordance with the requirements of the city charter and code on the city's website, and the property was properly posted. At the present time, there are 17 exhibits in the record files. They are referenced in an exhibit list in the files. The individual exhibits may be reviewed during the course of the meeting or in the Planning and Code Administration offices during regular business hours at City Hall or on the city's website. Any objections to the receipt of any exhibit should be noted prior to the closing of the record, otherwise they will be deemed received in evidence. There is an aerial, if we can go to the aerial. The subject property, there it is zoned R90, medium density residential zone. Pursuant to section 24-295 of the city zoning ordinance, telecommunications facilities are permitted as a special exception in the R90 zone, subject to the requirements of section 24-167D2. And you can see the property on the aerial is just east of Russell Avenue and south of Odenhall Avenue, and it is part of the Asbury campus. The applicant went before the Planning Commission on June 1st, 2022 for recommendation. The Planning Commission recommended approval with 3 conditions, which are included as exhibit number 16. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Doug Sampson of Saul, Ewing, Arnstein, and Lair, who is here representing AT&T.
Okay, hi Doug. And before we start, if we have any witnesses that will be testifying, if I can swear everybody in at once, not yourself since you're an attorney. Will you have any other witnesses here to speak?
So the plan was to proffer their testimony, but have them available if there are any questions for the board. So if you want to swear everybody in, that would be fine.
Okay, let's just swear everybody in now. So if you're swearing in, if you just want to go ahead and raise your right hand, you can stand up if you like, or you can sit, it doesn't matter. Okay. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony that you're about to give in this matter shall be the truth and nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you very much. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. Again, my name is Doug Sampson. I'm outside zoning counsel for AT&T. Here as a representative of the applicants for BOA 9257-2022. This is a stealth rooftop facility at 403 Russell Avenue, and we've got some more photo simulations later, but this is generally what it would look like. You have 3 in the corners of the building, antenna structures, and then an equipment structure in the center there next to the penthouse. The purpose of this is to bring and expand wireless and broadband coverage in this area of the city of Gaithersburg. This is actually very similar to another rooftop facility that we were here for 506 Main Street last fall, you may remember. Yes. This will also enhance the public safety network with FirstNet. We'll have stealth structures on top of the existing apartment building that'll be designed to match the existing building facade. It'll offer very little visual impact to the area with no adverse effects, and will comply with all federal, state, and local laws. We do have members of the team here today who all participated in putting together the application materials. Again, I would proffer that their testimony would reflect that the application materials before you are accurate and true representations of this project. But again, they are available if there's any questions I can't answer for you this evening. Again, the goals are reliable wireless services in and around the city of Gaithersburg, improving emergency and non-emergency services, part of FirstNet, which I will talk a little bit more about in a moment. And really, one of the reasons that AT&T has been aggressively trying to expand its network is it found over the last 2.5 years with the pandemic that people who did not have adequate wireless or broadband service really were at a disadvantage in the remote environment that we all lived in. In fact, at times during the pandemic, AT&T's network access across the country expanded by almost 40%. So there was definitely a very increased need as people were working more and learning more in a remote environment. So what is FirstNet? FirstNet is a dedicated network access and bandwidth for first responders. It is in the city of Gaithersburg as well as Metro DC area. This is an exclusive contract between the federal government and AT&T, and this actually came from the 9/11 Commission with the U.S. Congress. And if you remember, during September 11th, the attacks, the wireless network was completely jammed, and first responders couldn't coordinate to respond to the disaster as it was happening. This was put in place to prevent that from ever happening again. This is dedicated bandwidth for first responders to make sure that they have the access and can communicate the way that they need to. During COVID, we found that there were over 2 million daily connections to the FirstNet network across the country, and all 50 states and 6 U.S. territories did opt in by January 2018. So this is expanding quickly throughout the country. Here's an overhead view of the apartment building, and the white circles will be the 4 structures that we will put up there. The 3 in the corners will be the antenna structures, and then in the center of the building there will be the equipment structure that will accompany the antennas. What's really great about a facility like this is there's really no local impact. And what's wonderful is this is a highly residential area, so there's definitely a need for coverage that we'll see in just a moment. But in residential areas, a lot of people don't like to see those naked monopole towers go up. Fortunately here, we have a tall structure in the heavily residential area that needs coverage, and it can be done with a stealth facility that blends into the existing building. It'll be an unmanned facility. There'll be 3 to 4 visits per year by a technician just to inspect and modify the equipment as needed, so there should be no impact on traffic, no dust, noise, glare, odor, light, or any other adverse effects other than the structures on top of the building. So here's a look at the coverage maps. So what you see in green is what AT&T considers full coverage. That would be in-building coverage where your calls won't drop, and you also have full broadband access to download websites or to use your smartphone in its full capacity. So on the left here, you see the current coverage, and the star there is the proposed building at 403 Russell. And you can see that there's a pretty big hole as far as full coverage for AT&T there. On the right, you see how that is remedied by this, and also up to the north of what's marked as the Cider Mill Apartments there, up to Strawberry Knoll Elementary. It really fills in that area as well. The site plans are included as an exhibit to our application. I was just going to go through a couple here to show you. So what you see here is an overhead of the building, and these squares you see to the left, there's 2 of them there, and then 1 to the far right. Those will be the structures that will actually have the antennas included inside of them. And then in the center, you have the equipment facility. It's basically a platform. It'll be a small equipment shed that has the accompanying equipment to go with the antennas. Here's a north building view elevation. As you can see, the roof currently is 84.5 feet tall. AT&T's structures, when they're up there, will only be to 95 feet, which is actually still below the existing penthouse, which goes to 100.5 feet. I should point out, too, that, and we'll see it in the photo simulations as well, but the material that surrounds these antennas, it's designed to look like a brick facade, but it also is able to have the wireless RF signals travel through it unimpeded. So it's kind of a unique material that looks like brick, but allows the signals to travel unimpeded. And here's a west look at the building with the side with the 2 antenna structures that'll be up on top there. So here's a look at what one of these structures will look like. The antennas would be inside of this. They are not covered. The rain would actually pass right through and be taken care of on the normal rooftop facility there. And then here's the overhead view. Again, you see the two antenna structures to the left, one to the far right, and then the equipment shed in the center. And then here are a couple of views from the ground level. So this would be looking, what you see in the bottom left is the point of view. So you can see we're looking to the west of the building, towards the building. The existing view to the top left, that's what you see currently today. And then what you see on the right is the proposed view, what this would look like when the structures are up there. This shows you from the east side of the building, from ground level. You really can't see them. That's one of the nice things about having such a tall building is you really, unless you have to get a lot further back from the building to actually be able to see them. This is from the right front side of the building, and if you look through the trees there to the right, you can just make out where the antenna structure will be. And then here's a view from the back. Again, you can see the brick-looking structures there on top. So as far as code compliance, we believe this application complies with Section 24-167A of the City Code. The building is of sufficient height for rooftop antennas. It will not cover more than 25% of the existing roof. The size of the antennas and unmanned equipment are all code compliant. The antennas will be located in stealth structures that are designed to blend in with the existing building to minimize the visual impact. And again, there will be no signs, lights, glare, noise, odor that could create an adverse impact on the residents and visitors to the area. As far as Section 24-190, the required findings for a special exception, this facility is permitted with a special exception in the R90 zoning district. It will comply with all standards of rooftop telecommunications facilities. There's no detriment to the use, peaceful enjoyment, economic value, or development of the surrounding properties. And in fact, you could say it will increase all of that by bringing needed cell service to this area. The stealth structure will create no adverse impacts and will improve the use and enjoyment of the properties with improved emergency and non-emergency services. It is in harmony with the character of the neighborhood because the structures are designed to blend in with the existing building and will have no increase of traffic or noise or light pollution. We believe it's consistent with the Gaithersburg Master Plan, which does promote the new technology and access to services as goals. And we believe it will enhance the public health through FirstNet and wireless access for first responders. And with that, we would ask that you adopt the Planning Commission's recommendation and the recommendation of staff and approve our proposed special exception. And be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Aaron?
Yeah, I have a few. First is a point of curiosity. FirstNet's an exclusive AT&T contract, but that doesn't prevent other providers from using the infrastructure?
So FirstNet, the services for first responders are only available where AT&T has sufficient coverage. So it's on monopoles and rooftop facilities that AT&T is at. Other providers can co-locate on facilities such as monopoles. But FirstNet is exclusively through AT&T.
Okay, I was more just curious about that point.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the current and proposed maps?
Sure.
On the current, where are the current antennae that provide the current coverage? Where are those located?
They are depicted on this particular map.
They are.
We do have an AT&T RF engineer here who might be able to give you a little bit of clarity, but they aren't depicted here, so I can't point out exactly where they are.
Yeah.
But there are other AT&T antennas in the area, obviously, that provide this coverage you do currently see in green.
So perhaps we can get an answer to that question. Somebody nodded. Because I got a follow-up after that. So.
Yeah, good evening.
You can go here and just introduce yourself.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Gaurav Behel. I'm an AT&T RF engineer. To be honest, I don't know exactly the exact address, but if you look at this map, and I can use the maps, we have a tower somewhere in this region.
Uh-huh.
So that's why you see all this green. This is coming from there, and then obviously we have sites here, and then sites which are not in this map. But if I draw a box like this, we don't have any existing site here.
Got it. So then the next question is, and apologies for not having the code site, but when I was reviewing the materials ahead of time, they were talking about location. There's phrasing that the location should be as necessary for the convenience and safety. So I'm just curious, were there other locations considered? Why this location in particular? in comparison to anything else that might have been considered in the area?
Yes, so whenever we look at the need for any particular cell site, the first thing we do is what is out there? What are the existing monopole, self-support, whatever is there? So what we do is we release a search ring radius. So let's say I need a site right on this rooftop, but I will put a circle, maybe half a mile, and give it to our site tech team and go and figure out, are there any existing structures?
Mm-hmm.
In this particular example, there was nothing. On top of that, this whole campus, there are 3 main rooftops, and the other carriers, both Verizon and T-Mobile, are on those 2 buildings. So if you count these 3 buildings as one unit, so one carrier is on building number A, building number B, and we are going on the building number C. So there were no, available existing towers where we could co-locate on. And plus, this was a rooftop, it gives us the height. So it met, or it checked all the boxes.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Last question. The simulations, obviously, and as you had mentioned, show the structures as matching or blending. I forgot the phrasing that you used. It's a different material.
Mm-hmm.
So how accurate is the simulation to what we're going to see if we're going to look and we're going to see brick on top of the roof? Is that brick really going to blend in? How do we know that that's actually the case?
Sure. So our contractors, when they put together the stealthy material, and they specialize in working with this material, they've actually gone out and color tested the building. And so it's kind of like getting your Sherwin-Williams
Right.
paint samples and figuring out which one matches the best. And so they have done that, and that's part of the construction, is making sure it matches as closely as possible. And also part of AT&T's maintenance is to go out there, and if for some reason the paint has peeled or chipped or anything like that, to bring it back to to maintain the facility, including the stealth enclosures throughout the life of the facility.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Any further questions?
Nope.
Okay. Robert?
Just one. I was going through the materials, maybe I missed it. What type of tools or anything are in those storage sheds up on top, storage facility?
Sure. So it's really coming down. I drove through this on the way down, by the way. It was fun. It's the accompanying equipment. It's not a ton. It's typically the power that will come through the building to power the antennas and receivers. There's usually a generator, which is only there for in the case of a power outage, so people can still have cell service when the power goes out. So it's typically equipment like that. We do have it in the site plans. We'll have a full breakdown of the equipment that is inside that storage, inside the equipment cabinet.
Yeah, that's what I was really wondering, if there was generators in there, and I didn't know how, if there's resonance all the way up to that roof. I didn't know if that would affect any resonance, if a backup generator went on. Most of those are pretty whisper watt, quiet generators, but I didn't know if vibration or whatever would affect any, resonance that are right below it, or if that the upper floors,
They're
are
specific.
affected.
I would say they're specifically designed for these rooftop facilities for that not to be an issue, because these are put on a lot of buildings, such as residential buildings, and also a lot of hospitals. Most hospitals in major cities have these as well. So it should not, and again, the generator really is only there as an emergency backup, so it would only be running at a time when there's a storm like this going on where you lose power.
Thank you.
Philip?
Yeah, just one quick question. So I just want to make sure. So everything's just going to be on the roof. You don't have to do anything inside the building. at
That's
all?
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing as far as inside the building will be just attaching into the building's power, which comes up through the building. But AT&T will have its own separate meter and will be metered separately for its electric service. But beyond that, everything is isolated completely on the rooftop, and this also will not be accessible to the general public. These sheds are located in places where there's not public access, and then they're also individually locked themselves to prevent public access to them.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have a follow-up question, Aaron?
Yeah, I just had one other thought. In the draft resolution, we've got a series of conditions, one of which is that this will happen within a year, and if so, you need an extension. Do you have an anticipated timing?
It won't take a full year. These are usually, 3 to 6 months after approval, once we get building, because after zoning, we have to get the building permit. So depending on how quickly that process is, but then once that, I don't anticipate any issue. It will definitely be within a year. AT&T is very excited about getting this site up, especially because it's a FirstNet site.
Sure.
And it's a priority area. So I would imagine 3 to 6 months. But we've reviewed the conditions and have no objection. AT&T accepts all of them.
Great. Thank you.
Supply chain can always,
Exactly.
So I just have two questions. One is this, I'm sure, 5G or higher for the cell phone services that are going to be provided?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Bell on this because he knows a lot more about 4G versus 5G than I do.
Yeah, it will be 4G and 5G. So
Okay.
whatever is available today, we are putting it. As and when something new comes up, we will upgrade it.
So the equipment will be able to be upgraded?
So right now, whatever is the latest is available in the market, that's 5G NR.
Okay.
We are deploying 5G NR on this side.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then the second question, I haven't been over to Asbury in a very long time, but I understand it's a gated community. And so how will you gain access to just to the facility and then to the building itself?
Sure. So that is usually handled in AT&T's lease agreements with the landowner or the property
Okay.
owner. Typically, AT&T it varies a little bit from agreement to agreement, but in a typical arrangement, AT&T, when they need to get in there to do work or to upgrade antennas or maintain them, will give 7 to 15 days notice to the landlord. The landlord will make it available and usually try to work at times where it won't be interfering with residents or anything like that. So I don't know the specific terms of this lease, but the general idea is that there's a notice provision to give the landlord notice and then usually some kind of consent and working with them to make sure that it's at a convenient time.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, that's it for my questions. Do we have any additional follow-up questions at this point before I go ahead and, I'll have to see if there's any questions from the public, and then we'll close the record. So let me ask, is there any further questions from the board?
I've got a question for staff and council, but wait for the discussion on that front.
During our board discussion? Yeah, Caroline said, yeah, that's good, okay. Okay, so thank you for your presentation and
Thank
answering
you.
all our questions. And so, is there any additional testimony from any other parties? I don't see anybody here. Do we run the video? For
No,
the...
no,
We're done with
we're
that.
just in person, so as long
So
as
we're
you
done.
acknowledge that there's nobody
There's
in the
nobody here.
audience, you're good.
Okay. All right, so let me have a motion now to close the record.
We'll move to close the record.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. And all those in favor, say aye.
all right,
Okay, closing the record, passes 4-0. All right, so now this is when the board discusses the case. So, go ahead.
So my question for staff and council is, it's been a while since we've done like a new antenna, instead of an amendment or an upgrade. Is there anything that we should be aware of that may have changed in terms of policy, code, regulation, or otherwise?
Probably not. We have not changed our telecommunications ordinance in many years.
Right.
And to my knowledge, the FCC requirements haven't changed either, so I would say no.
Okay.
it's a good point, because we did a lot of them.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden, boom, they were done.
yeah.
One in particular.
Yes.
Yes. I just wanted to say that looking 2 points one was that the availability of the FirstNet I think is tremendous for the city of Gaithersburg and its residents. So that would be a tremendous help. And then also to the coverage itself, the coverage map. It looked like it's really going to be able to provide additional services, or at least better coverage. Looking at the map, so. That was just my 2 points. I think this is a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, and I would also add that I think it's straightforward and a straightforward compliance with the requirements of the code.
Yes, and what I liked were the applied materials for the stealth brick. That I think that was something that was going to be it's forward-looking in maybe something that we can keep in mind as other things come before the board. But I definitely thought this was a good presentation. Any other thoughts?
Nothing more?
You ready for the vote? Okay, so someone needs to make the motion for the resolution, which I do have in front of me here.
No.
Oh, you have it, you have your sheets there too? Okay, all right.
I make a motion that the Board of Appeals, based on the findings and conclusions outlined in the draft resolution, approve special exemption application BOA 9257-2022 and adopt resolution BOA 9257-2022 with the 3 conditions presented.
And I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, none. The motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, board members. And I just want to say I've worked in a lot of jurisdictions, and I love working in Gaithersburg. Staff is wonderful. They're responsive. They help get it through as opposed to putting up roadblocks. And so I would work here all the time if I can, compared to some of my Virginia counterparts where it's 5 or 6 years. So it's a pleasure, and I really appreciate your time tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. And thanks to you, everyone who came to support you also. Thank you.
You guys are welcome to wait out the rain if you'd
Yeah,
like.
yeah, you're welcome to stay in as we go through our business, our just day-to-day business here at this point. I think it's still raining from the sound.
sounds like.
Take your time.
Not as hard.
It's hard.
Thank you all. Have a great
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move on now from the staff, and I'll Caroline, and then we'll have Eric.
The next meeting is July 13th. I'm still hoping if we can get everyone here 1 month to do a work session. So I will poll everybody between now and July 13th.
It won't be July.
Won't be July. Okay. Maybe August. Because it would be good to have a refresher on a bunch of things. So hopefully we'll get that done sometime soon.
Sorry to throw a wrench in those plans.
That's all right.
Thank you, Caroline.
that's it.
And Eric?
Sure. I wanted to just put the following on the board's radar. Legal department for the city has received a few concerns and issues regarding the taking of testimony and whether that testimony should be under oath. I know from the experience that I've had with this board, it's done all the time, but there is a push to have or establish some sort of uniformity throughout all of the commissions. So just to let you guys know, I will be sending Caroline a amended boards of procedure or amended rules of procedure that includes probably just a sentence or two informing the public that all testimony has to be conducted under oath. Okay. And I will send that, in the next week. And I know that 11.2 of the Board of Appeals states that a board member has to present the resolution in writing at least 45 days prior to a meeting. So this will probably be done not next month, but the following. And that's all.
Okay, thank you. Anything, Greg?
Nothing for me tonight. Thank you.
Okay, anything else from the rest of the board? Okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. This meeting is now adjourned.